Stephanie Dobson is joining us here again on Primetime Local News. Stephanie is a local lawyer and mediator here in Lloydminster, and we've been doing a series on separation and divorce. And unfortunately, Stephanie, this is something that is just, it's a tough subject, but it's something that has to be discussed and something that a lot of people really don't have information on or know where to get that information. So we want to take this time to thank you for doing this with us. And we really have been enjoying this and had a lot of good feedback. So Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us once again this week.
Thanks. I just want to start by saying, my concept has always been to create a foundation of knowledge and information, and that's what I've always focused on in my practice. So this really fits well within me wanting to help inform the public on just various topics that, are short snippets, but just information to help people to know exactly where to go, where to start, and, and to be more effective in their transition through separation and divorce. So thank you so much for having me, Stacey.
And Stephanie, we're going to start today by talking about communication, because when there is a divorce or a separation happening, it's very important to communicate, that both sides are talking to each other. And let's just talk about that, the importance of both sides being involved and communicating in the way that they should with each other. How really important is that as they go through the process?
Communication is the foundation of any relationship. Whether people are separated or whether they're in an intact family living under one roof or two roofs, it's so important to communicate. And communication becomes even more important, I would say, when you're separating, when you're moving into two homes, because it really is that foundation of being able to effectively co-parent. And so when we talk about parents having a united front with the children and being on the same page, children will know very quickly when their parents aren't communicating, and they can start to take advantage of that. And it's so important that the kids know and that the parents are able to communicate together to really be able to help build the effective and resilient children as they go through their childhood in two homes.
So what are some tips that you could give parents on ways that they can effectively communicate while going through a separation or a divorce?
Yeah, so I would say that the overarching theme is to create mutual expectations about communication. What co-parents typically find is that they have a different style of communication. One communicates more or more detail or more frequently or more urgently than the other, and so they're often on very different pages. So I think the very foundation would be to set those mutual expectations. So I have three different rules: the who, the what, and the when. So the who is going to communicate with who, right? So who's in that thread? Typically it's just the parents, but are there opportunities if there's step parents involved or extended family? Are there opportunities where other people might want to be in the know about a certain topic? So the who. Then the second thing is the what. So what type of information are you agreeing to exchange? Are we just agreeing to exchange if there's an illness or a dental emergency or any type of emergency, excuse me, or an incident at school, for example, the major stuff? Or are we going to agree to, communicate the more minor things, talking about something new at school or something like that? And then it's the when. So it's the frequency. So are you going to communicate every single day about things? Are you going to communicate only at exchanges or only when something major happens? Or what does that look like? So the who, the what, and the when. And then just to be realistic, right, in setting those mutual expectations.
And there are so many different ways to communicate nowadays. And of course, COVID also has to be taken into consideration as to how you do things. Technology is changing. Some people are good with it, some people aren't. So what would you recommend for people to communicate back and forth? What are the best, tools maybe that can be used to do that?
I have to say there is no one right way to communicate. What is most important is to find the right way for your particular family. So for example, you might say, let's text on these particular types of topics, and on those other types of topics, let's email each other. And Other topics we agree that we're going to phone. So for example, some people say when, depending maybe on the time sensitivity, if something is more urgent, pick up the phone and make sure you get that person on the other end and you're able to communicate that effectively. Whereas something, for example, that might be a topic that has to do with something a month or two in advance, for example, Christmas or planning, something like that, where someone might receive the information and they might want to process it and not respond right away, but just to really consider their response, you might want to do a different method of communication. So really just find the one right way for you.
Well, Stephanie, thanks again for these tips and for speaking with us today. And I know that there are so many questions. I mean, we could talk about so many different topics, and we will as we go through this series. But we are encouraging viewers to send in questions for either topics they'd like to see in future interviews, or if they just want to ask you questions in regarding separation and divorce. So what is the best way that they can reach you if they want to reach out and have some questions about what they may be going through or are about to go through?
Sure. So on our website, we have a special contact form that has to do with this TV series that we're doing, and you can submit your questions there, or your topics or your ideas for future dates. But also you can send us an email, info@henkadivorce, HENKA divorce.ca, and reach us that way.
Okay, well, thank you so much once again, Stephanie. We really appreciate this. And again, we encourage people to reach out, and any questions you may have, let Stephanie know, and she can handle. If you want them to be private, obviously they can be kept that way. Or if there's a general subject that you want her to speak about, we can do that as well. So once again, Stephanie, thank you for joining us, and we will chat again next week.
Thank you so much.